Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought a single video could undo 15 years of marriage. Not because of what was shown, but because of what it revealed. The truth doesn't always arrive screaming. Sometimes it slips in quietly, wearing a familiar face, and by the time you recognize it, everything you believed in is already fractured. My name is James. I'm 42. I've been married to Elizabeth for almost 16 years. Or at least, I was married to the version of her I thought I knew. Our life, from the outside, looked steady, not exciting, not dramatic, just solid. We had routines. Morning coffee at the kitchen counter. Weekend grocery runs. Quiet evenings where we sat on the same couch, but lived in different thoughts. I worked long hours in logistics, managed projects, paid the mortgage, handled the repairs. Elizabeth worked part-time in marketing, mostly remote, flexible hours. She said she liked that our life was calm, predictable. I believed her. The shift didn't happen overnight. It never does. It came in small, dismissible moments. She started filming more, little clips on her phone, always adjusting the camera, redoing takes, smiling in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. When I asked what it was for, she said, "Just content. It's nothing serious." I didn't push. I trusted my wife. Dinner conversations grew thinner. Less eye contact. More time locked in the spare room. She'd turned into a workspace. At night, she'd come to bed already tired, already distant. When I reached for her, she'd sigh softly, like my touch interrupted something more important. I told myself it was stress. That marriages go through phases. That commitment meant patience. At one point, while listening to this, if this story already feels uncomfortably familiar, take a second and hit like, so it can reach others who might need to hear it too. Some stories only surface because people realize they're not alone. The video was uploaded on a Tuesday. I didn't know that then. I only noticed a change in her energy that evening. She was lighter, almost buoyant, humming while making tea, checking her phone every few minutes, smiling to herself. "Good day?" I asked. "Yeah," she said, "just busy." That night, she fell asleep quickly. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when busy had started to feel like a locked door between us. The next morning, my phone buzzed while I was at work. A message from an unknown number. No greeting, just a link. YouTube. I didn't open it right away. I finished my meeting, reviewed emails, tried to focus. But the message sat there, heavy, so eventually I clicked. The title stopped me cold. The video that shattered my husband. The day everything changed forever. It took a few seconds for my brain to catch up. The thumbnail loaded. Elizabeth, sitting in our spare room. Same background. Same lamp I'd fixed last winter. Her face was serious, eyes glossy, like she was holding back tears. My stomach dropped. I watched. She talked about feeling unseen, about being emotionally neglected, about carrying a marriage alone. She spoke calmly, carefully, like someone who had rehearsed every word. She never used my name. She called me my husband. She said she'd tried everything. Communication, patience, compromise. She said she'd finally reached a breaking point. What she didn't say mattered more than what she did. She didn't mention the dinners I cooked when she was too tired. The weekends I stayed home because she didn't feel like going out. The way I'd asked again and again if she was okay, only to be told I was overthinking. As the views climbed in real time, so did the comments. Strangers praising her courage, calling her brave, telling her she deserved better. At that moment, if you're watching this and have an opinion about whether airing private pain publicly crosses a line, leave a comment. Not to judge, but say where you stand. These conversations matter. I paused the video halfway through. My hands were shaking. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shouting. I felt something worse. Replaced, like my role in my own life had been rewritten without my consent. When I got home that evening, Elizabeth was already there. Calm, composed. She looked at me like she knew something I didn't. We need to talk, I said. She nodded. I figured. I asked her why. Why a video? Why strangers? Why not me? She sighed, the same sigh I'd heard 100 times. Because talking to you never changed anything. That sentence landed harder than the video. If you've ever been told your effort didn't count, type the word "seen" in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. She told me the video was her truth, that she needed an outlet, that people deserved to hear her story. When I asked why she hadn't mentioned my side, she said, "This isn't about you." That's when I realized something fundamental had shifted. The marriage I was trying to protect had already been repurposed into content. Later that night, while she slept peacefully, I sat alone in the dark living room, laptop open, the video still playing silently, comments multiplying, a narrative forming, one I no longer controlled. And for the first time, I understood that whatever came next wouldn't be about fixing things. It would be about surviving what had already been broken. If this story made you feel something, anger, confusion, recognition, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it but doesn't know how to say it out loud. Some truths only travel when we help them. The morning after watching her video, the house felt alien. Every sound, every shadow, every small object seemed to whisper reminders of life I thought we shared. Elizabeth moved through it with ease, humming softly, checking her phone again and again. I, on the other hand, felt like a visitor in my own home. I tried to speak, to ask a question, anything. She smiled politely, distracted. "Later," she said each time. Later never came. By mid-afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into the spare room she had transformed into her studio, the very room where the video had been filmed. The sight of her arranging lights and checking the camera angle made my chest tighten. "Elizabeth," I said, "we need to talk. Now." She looked at me, calm, almost indifferent. "I've said everything I need to in the video." The weight of that sentence pressed down on me. 16 years. Every effort, every late night, every small compromise I'd made, reduced to a click on a screen. And yet, somehow, the more she spoke, the quieter I became. I realized that the anger I expected wasn't rising. What replaced it was a cold clarity I hadn't known I possessed. I turned away, took a deep breath. My mind raced, plotting the small but decisive steps that would finally reclaim the sense of control I'd lost. If you've ever been cornered by someone you loved, drop a comment below with the word "boundary." It's for the recognition of knowing when enough is enough. I started with the simplest things. I disconnected shared accounts, credit cards, streaming subscriptions, auto-pay transfers, not with spite, with precision. Each action was deliberate, each move calculated. I kept a record, documented everything, every interaction, every payment, every message. The emotional weight was immense, but the clarity it brought was liberating. Elizabeth noticed. She confronted me later that evening. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice tight. I looked at her calmly. "Because the rules have changed. Your video, your truth, set them." She was speechless. For the first time in years, I saw hesitation in her eyes. That hesitation gave me strength I didn't know I had. Over the next few days, life moved forward in strange, silent ways. She filmed more videos, each one generating more views, more commentary. I focused on maintaining my own space, my own narrative. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself from a life that had quietly stopped belonging to me. One afternoon, a neighbor stopped by. "James, everything okay?" I smiled faintly. "Better than okay. I'm finally seeing clearly." I realize that clarity isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't need validation. And yet, for those still watching her videos, the story wasn't about clarity. It was about chaos, betrayal, heartbreak. And I decided then, if you feel compelled to like this video, do it now, not just for me, but so it can reach someone who might need a reminder that clarity can exist even after betrayal. A week later, Elizabeth confronted me again, frustration now thinly veiled. "You're doing all of this instead of talking?" "I'm doing all of this because talking didn't change anything," I replied, Calm, measured, final. That night, I sat alone in the living room. The house quiet, almost too quiet. I allowed myself to feel the shock fully, to recognize the betrayal, and then let it go. The video had shattered my husband. Yes, but it had also awakened him. Comment below if you've ever experienced a moment where someone else's actions force you to see your own worth. Let's start a discussion, the kind that heals rather than condemns. I made a decision then. No more silent suffering. No more invisibility. My life, my rules, my narrative. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen with calm, prepared breakfast for myself and my daughter, acknowledging that this was a new chapter, not defined by what Elizabeth had put online, but by what I chose to claim for myself. I realized then that survival isn't dramatic. It isn't about confrontation or explosions. It's about small, deliberate actions that rebuild a foundation quietly, steadily. And in that realization, I felt a sense of freedom so sharp it almost took my breath away. For those who watch this story to the end, type awake in the comments to acknowledge that reclaiming yourself after emotional upheaval is possible. And if you want to support stories like this, comment your thoughts and subscribe, not for drama, but for understanding that some truths demand both courage and clarity. The video had been meant to shatter, to expose, to wound. And in some ways it had. But in the quiet aftermath, I discovered strength I didn't know existed. My life didn't end with that upload. It began again, quietly, deliberately, and with a sense of clarity that no viral video could ever take away. And that is how a single video, meant to break me, ended up awakening the very part of me that I had long forgotten